You may have seen these dialogues floating around in demos online. These are called GUI controls, and there are a lot of JavaScript libraries that help you do this sort of thing. Now, this one is called Leva. It's one I recently started using, and it plays really well with React. So today I'm going to show you how to set this up with an animation project. Here's the button animation from a previous video. So let's set up a GUI control for controlling some of the parameters of this animation. So first, let's install the Leva library. So I'm going to open up the terminal, and we're going to run npm install Leva. Let me restart the project. Let's set up the parameters that are going to go into the GUI. So to do this, I'm going to use a hook from Leva called useControls. And into this hook, we can just pass in the properties that we want. So here are some properties that I've just added for the mass, the stiffness, and the spread for the spring animation for the button. And you can see I passed in what the default value should be and some min and max values as well. And then from this hook, we can extract out the values that we're going to get. Mass, stiffness, and spread. And these will be returned from the hook. And now we can use these values in our animation. And this error now here is because of a rendering issue with Leva. So to fix this, we just need to go down into our actual JSX and add the Leva component directly into the DOM tree. And now when we save, we have the GUI now showing up in the top right, and our three values are showing up with their sliders according to the min-max values and the current values we've set by default. But of course, right now, if we move these sliders, absolutely nothing happens. So let's connect this up to the animation. So I'm going to go down to this animation code, and where we have the values for damping, mass, and stiffness, we're going to just change this. So damping will actually be the same for now. For mass, I'll just pass in the new mass parameter we have from Leva. Same for stiffness. And then for the spread, we need to replace this 10 pixels here. So I'm just going to go here, inject string, and pass in spread. So now these values are being passed in. But if we try to change any of these values, nothing seems to be happening. And this is because we need to tell this motion component that, hey, you've actually changed and you need to reconfigure and restart your animation. So to do this, I'm going to set a custom key on this motion div. And this key is just going to be a concatenation of the values for mass, stiffness, and spread. So when we change one of these values, that means a new key comes in, and therefore this motion component will know it needs to re-render completely with the new animation value. So now if I go here and say move the spread, which might be the easiest, you can see here now the spread has increased quite a bit, and I can mess with all these values, and we now have the animation is changing. It can reduce the spread back to its old amount. Now see here, sometimes the animation gets stuck. This is a bit specific to this type of animation we're doing here, or cyclical animation. So it's not interruptible, but we can see the animation is changing as we move the sliders around. But let's say we want to reset these values back to the original values. So let's add a reset button into this. Turns out that's pretty easy to add. If I just go back up into use controls, we can add a button control into this config. We need to change a little bit this syntax. So now we need to make the return like a use state, let's say. So we'll get back a set function. And then inside use controls, let's convert this to be an arrow function instead. Change the ending here. And then after spread, we're going to add a new property. We'll call it reset. And this will be a type button, which we'll get from Leva. And this button, we can now pass in the callback. And here we can now access the set function and call set, and then set the values as we want. So here I just set them back to the original values. Now let's try this. We can see there's a reset button. When I click it, all values now go back to their original state, and I can still go back and change the values as we had before. So that's it for this video. Hopefully you learned something about setting up these GUI controls with Leva. Definitely go try it out in your next animation project. With that, I'll see you in the next one.